This podcast is going to cover how to set your software to start at boot time. We installed Apache and we did service HTTPD start to start it. But if we reboot the system, it's not going to start back. So what we need to do is figure out how to tell it to start at boot time. And there's a check config command that tells us what services start at what run levels. So we look at this. This tells us everything that's set to start on our system and what run levels it's supposed to be set on or off. On is single user mode, right? So almost nothing gets started on single user mode. 3 is the GUI list run level that we operate at. 5 is the GUI run level normally. 4 I think is like, I don't know what 4 is. 4 is like, usually NFS mounts or something. I don't remember. But anyway, 3 and 5 are what you're most used to. 6 is like reboot, and 0 is like shut down. So 1 you only use if you need to get in and fix something. 3 no GUI, 5 a GUI. 2 and 4 I don't really know what they do. I'm not really worried about it. So check config -- list shows you what the settings are. If you want to change the settings, I don't want to do that. Apparently, if you type check config, it shows you everything. That's the same as list. Check config help. We want to change the settings. We're going to do this one down here. We're going to do levels and specify the levels and then the name of the service and then set it to on. So if we look at HTTPD again, so I could do check config list HTTPD, right? It's off, 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 off. So I wanted to start at 3, 4, and 5 just because that's generally what everything starts at. Config, check config. I'm going to say -- levels 3, 3, 4, 5 HTTPD on. Oh, I got to be root to do that. So why don't I use sudo to do that? So now, that's not what I wanted. There we go. So now it's set for on at 3, 4, and 5. So now in theory, if I rebooted the system, service HTTPD status dead, but subsystem locked. So service HTTP. I always forget this sudo thing since I never do it that way. Start, restart. So there must be a stale file out there somewhere I should go delete or something. So anyway, my service is running. Oh yeah, sudo. That's probably my problem. I'm not running as root. Yeah, that's probably what the problem was. So that's how you set it. Our security standard says we should not start any unnecessary services. So what's an unnecessary service? Well, that's a service you don't need. So if I look at my services that are running, audit D, that does auditing. That sounds good. Block availability, not sure what that is, but it's on at run level 1. So that's probably good. Cron D will use HT cache clean. That's set to off. So I looked, and that's something that cleans up the disk cache. You can run it manually or in daemon mode. So we could set that to start if we were having disk cache issues on our web server. We're going to leave that alone. HTTPD, that's on. That's fine. IP6 tables, well, we're not using IPv6, so do we need that one? Well, let's see. We do have an IPv6 address by default, so IPv6 is turned on. So we could go turn IPv6 off, or we could just leave the IPv6 firewall on. I'll say we just leave it on for now. iSCSI and iSCSID, this is a protocol used to connect to a SAN. We're not connected to a SAN, so hey, let's turn that off for fun. With levels, I hate this. I should just run as root all the time. Levels, and it's on for 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. iSCSI off, and then we'll do iSCSID off. we'll turn both of those off. LVM monitors on. That's for logical volume manager. We'll keep that on. MD monitor. I don't know what that is. MD monitor. Part of the MD admin package to administer software. It says we don't need it. Software RAID. Oh, we don't have software RAID, so let's turn that off. Right? We don't have RAID. So we'll turn that one off. It's on. That's on at 2, 3, 4, 5. MD monitor. So in the real world, if you were doing this and you were worried about screwing up your system, you wouldn't turn these all off and on, all off at the same time. You would turn one off, or during a maintenance window, you would turn one off, and then you would reboot, and then you would turn another one off, and you would reboot, you make sure everything worked, and then you would turn another one off, and you reboot, and you make sure it worked, and you turn another one off, and you reboot, and you make sure it worked. See, mounts and unmounts, NFS, Windows, SMB, and NCP file shares. We don't have any of those right now, so we'll turn that off. NetFS will turn off. And NetFS is 345. I think you can specify all for levels if you just want to turn it off. Or maybe you can don't even have to specify levels. Maybe you can just tell it off. Hey, check that out. That works. So NetFS we turned off. Network, we want our network to come on. Port reserve. Port reserve. Let's see what that is. Of course, it's not even on this stupid page. Port reserve. Port reserve. See if there's anything Etsy port reserve. So yeah, there's a named file in there. That reserves a port. So that's not really hurting anything, so we'll leave that on. Postfix, that's the mail server, we'll leave that on. RDisk is off, so that's good. Restore condish is off. Syslog's on, that's good. Sassel authd off. SSH is on, and this udev post, if it's starting at run level 1, I'm assuming it's important. So what I just did was I turned on some services, or turned off some services and turned on HTTPD. So if we want to see stuff that's on, then we can do that. But here I got these that have off because they have on in the middle. So now I'll grep for colon on. And that only shows me things that have at least one on. So yeah, so that looks like a good list of services. Like I said, we could disable IPv6 and turn off IPv6 tables. You know, I'm not going to do that right now. We could also probably turn off port reserve. But now the key will be to reboot the system. Reboot the system. And hope it comes back up. We can get to it. I don't even know, did I even allow ping to it? Maybe I stopped allowing ping to it. Yeah. So, that's weird. Why can't I ping it? Did I? No, I just wasn't patient enough. I can ping it now. So, so there we go. I disabled the unnecessary services. I didn't want to do start. I want to do status. It was already running, so that's why I didn't get a starting okay. So it's already running. I disabled the services, the unnecessary services. The server seems to be working okay. So with that, we'll conclude this podcast.